Welcome to my channel Veterans Legacy. Today's story will take you deep into the heart of a military base, where an ordinary moment turned into something unforgettable. A story that reminds us that heroes never really fade away, even when the world forgets their names. So sit back, listen closely, and let the echoes of honor, courage, and memory fill your heart. The morning sun poured its golden light over Fort Reading. The base was alive with noise, boots pounding, metal clanging, shouts cutting through the crisp air. It was inspection day, and the young recruits stood tall in the training yard, their uniforms stiff and their nerves tighter than drumskins. Colonel Matthew Hayes, a man known for his thunderous voice and steel-gray stare, marched down the line. Every recruit held his breath as he passed. Hayes wasn't cruel, but his standards were unforgiving. He'd served 35 years, from dusty deserts to icy mountains, and his very presence carried the weight of 1,000 untold stories. But there was something unusual about this inspection. The colonel was holding a folded paper, an old, yellowed page with faint writing on it. Nobody knew what it was, but rumors had been flying all morning. Some said it was a forgotten order from the war. Others said it was a test, a code, maybe, from his old unit. The colonel stopped in front of the first row and barked, at ease. Boots shifted, hands relaxed. Then he looked out over the field, his eyes narrowing as if seeing ghosts among the ranks. He took a deep breath and shouted something that froze everyone in place. Operation Silent Valor, Formation Protocol Echo 7. The recruits blinked. Confused looks spread like wildfire. "Sir," one brave recruit asked, we don't know that command." The colonel didn't answer. He just repeated, louder, Echo 7. Operation Silent Valor, Formation now. No one moved. The younger soldiers looked at each other, unsure if this was a drill, a test, or maybe a slip of memory from the old colonel. A tense silence fell over the yard. The colonel's face tightened, his eyes glimmering with something between pain and pride. Then, from the far end of the field, near the maintenance shed, came the sound of metal falling to the ground. Everyone turned. There, standing by a mop bucket, was an old man in faded coveralls, the base janitor, Sam Givens. His hair was silver, his back slightly bent, but his eyes sharp as ever locked onto the colonel. Without a word, he straightened. His hand went instinctively to his side in salute. Then, with astonishing precision, he began moving, snapping into a formation stance that looked straight out of a military manual. The colonel's eyes widened. Sam's voice, low but steady, broke the silence. "Permission to rejoin the line, sir." The recruits looked from Sam to the colonel, stunned. "Givens," the colonel whispered, his voice trembling, you were there." "Yes, sir," Sam said, stepping forward with surprising strength. Operation Silent Valor, Echo 7 Protocol, 1991, Kandahar Province. Gasps rippled through the ranks. The old janitor, the man who swept their floors and cleaned their mess halls, had just spoken words that echoed through military history. Colonel Hayes nodded slowly, his jaw tight. I thought I was the last one left." Sam's eyes glistened. "You never forget, sir." "Not something like that." The colonel turned to his recruits. "Men, this man standing before you isn't just a janitor. He's Sergeant Major Samuel Givens, Silver Star, Purple Heart, and one of the finest soldiers I ever had the honor to command." The recruits' eyes widened in disbelief. Some even felt a lump form in their throats. Sam stood silently, his mop leaning against the shed like a forgotten rifle. The colonel continued, "Back in 91, during Operation Silent Valor, our unit was ambushed. We were outnumbered 10 to 1. Givens here." He rallied a group of wounded men and held the line until reinforcements came. "Saved 47 lives that day." The recruits stared. The air seemed to thicken with emotion. Sam looked down, humble as ever. "Just did what had to be done, sir." The colonel took a deep breath. "The order I shouted, it was our rally call. Echo 7, meant regroup at all costs. I thought everyone who remembered it was gone." Sam nodded. "Some of us just kept sweeping up the memories, sir." A long silence hung between them. Then the colonel straightened, his voice commanding again but softer around the edges. "Givens, you still remember the drill?" Sam's lips curled into a faint smile. "Every step, sir." "Then show them." What happened next would be remembered by everyone on that base for the rest of their lives. Sam took his place at the front of the line, his old boots creaking. The colonel barked the order once more, Echo 7. And Sam moved. His arms, once strong and disciplined, flowed through the precise motions of a forgotten formation. His steps struck the ground in rhythm, echoing through the yard. The recruits followed, clumsily at first, then sharper with each movement. It was like watching time itself rewind, a ghost of the past teaching the present what true discipline and honor looked like. When the final salute came, every man stood perfectly still. The air was electric. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The colonel's voice broke as he spoke. That's what courage looks like, gentlemen. Not medals, not rank, just a man who never forgets what it means to serve. Cheers glimmered in a few young eyes. Sam simply nodded, then turned to pick up his mop. But before he could, the colonel stepped forward and stopped him. Not today, he said softly. He unpinned the silver star from his own uniform and held it out. This belongs to you, Sam. For everything, for holding the line back then, and for reminding us today what that line really means. The old janitor shook his head. I've got no use for medals, sir. The floors still need cleaning. The colonel smiled faintly. Then let me polish those floors myself. The recruits, without a word, began to applaud, slow at first, then louder, until the whole yard roared with respect. Sam stood there, eyes wet, overwhelmed by the recognition he never asked for. For the first time in years, he stood not as a janitor, but as a soldier again. That night, as the sun set over Fort Reading, the young recruits gathered in the mess hall. Nobody laughed or joked as usual. They talked quietly about Sergeant Major Gibbons, about how they'd never look at a mop, a broom, or an old veteran the same way again. One of them, Private Daniels, said softly, "You think he'll ever tell us more about the war?" The colonel, sitting nearby, answered, "Maybe. But some stories aren't told, they're lived. And today, you lived one." Out by the shed, Sam looked up at the stars. The base lights flickered softly in the distance. In his pocket, he carried the colonel's medal, not for himself, but as a reminder that service never ends, it just changes uniforms. He whispered to the night, "Echo 7, boys. We're still holding the line." Soft cinematic music fades in. And that, my friends, was the story of the colonel and the janitor, a story that reminds us that no rank, no title, no passage of time can erase the heart of a true soldier. Every salute, every memory, every quiet act of service, they all echo through generations. If this story moved you, if it made you think of someone you know who served quietly, who carried their honor in silence, share this video, let others hear it too. Because sometimes, the bravest heroes aren't the ones in the spotlight, but the ones still sweeping the floors, still standing tall in spirit. This is Veterans Legacy. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and remember, some legacies don't fade. They live forever.